Good evening and welcome to our virtual session today. My name is Mahmoud Musali and I'm the Director of Projects and Programs at the British Council. We have over 500 registrations today, so many thanks for your interest in attending today's session. We have 7 panelists in today's session who, in addition to being UK Saudi Alumni Board members, are leaders in different sectors, including education, business, finance, medicine, and research. They're here today to share with you their experience of adapting to the new normal. To start this session, it gives me a great pleasure to welcome to the virtual stage Ailey Kennedy McLean, Country Director of the British Council and Gulf Cluster Lead, to say a few words. The stage is yours, Ailey.
Thank you, Mahmoud. Good evening and Ramadan Kareem, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us during this very auspicious month. And I hope that you will find this podcast interesting and very informative. It's an honor to be here today with some of our notable graduates from UK universities, many of whom are also our alumni board members. The UK education system continues to inspire generations of young people, and more students from across the globe are choosing to study in UK universities more than ever before. UK graduates continue to create their own successful paths across the globe and are among Nobel Prize winners, Oscar awardees, and Olympic champions. The UK and Saudi Arabia have an important, long-standing relationship, strengthened through the strong individual connections that many Saudis have from their time in UK universities. The UK is committed to its long-term partnership with Saudi Arabia, including supporting the delivery of Vision 2030. I co-chair the UK Saudi Education Steering Committee, where we meet regularly at the Ministry of Education to help drive the partnership forward and identify and deliver even more opportunities for young Saudis and young British people with aspiration. The COVID-19 crisis is unlike anything we have seen in recent years. My priority was to keep my team safe, cohesive, and productive. Morale was also and is also something that will continue to be tested for us all. We've had to make some hard decisions during these times, including cancelling activities and temporarily ceasing our services in the British Council. However, COVID-19 has also brought some opportunities. It's brought opportunities to allow us to move quickly, to do more online teaching and be more accessible to our friends and our customers in Saudi Arabia. Today's session is one of the virtual activities that we have planned to continue our engagement with you in Saudi Arabia. Our panelists will tell you a lot about their experience in the UK and what they've gained from their time in UK universities. But I also like to recall my own time studying in the UK, and which has a much broader and wider impact on our lives than simply our academic success. The friendships and relationships that we made during our time at university will continue to benefit us and serve us well throughout our career and our lives. I'd like now to pass on and share a message with you today from Neil Crompton, who's Her Majesty's Ambassador to Saudi Arabia and who arrived in the Kingdom earlier this year. And he has spent a significant amount of his time in the COVID environment that we're all living in. And he's going to share some reflections with us of his experience and what he's learned. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Neil Crompton and I'm the new British Ambassador to Saudi Arabia. I'm sorry I'm meeting you in this way. I had hoped to meet you all in person, but COVID-19 has changed all our lives. I've had a rather unusual start to my tour in Saudi Arabia. But I wanted to say how proud we are of our British education system and how one of the joys of being a diplomat is when you meet British graduates or graduates of British universities overseas. There's a sort of sense of camaraderie and friendship between us, and we all know that British universities are better than their rivals, don't we? Since my arrival, I've met many people, usually over the telephone, but I'm impressed by how many have studied either at school or university in the UK, and the sense of kinship that gives us with us in the embassy. And I know from other posts how powerful alumni networks can be, both in creating a sense of community and, of course, in helping you and your colleagues take forward progress in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The COVID crisis has been a shock for us all. I think we've all had to learn to adapt. We all learn to do things differently. I am now doing 3 or 4 meetings a day over the internet, on Teams or webinar, or through means like this. There are many positives. It can be very efficient. We're all traveling less. We all have more time. But I think what it brings out most of all is how we all crave human contact. So we were keen to maintain contact through this webinar series. I hope you all use these contacts both to help you advance your own professional and social agendas within the Kingdom and continue to sell the virtues of a good British education.
Thank you all. Please allow me to introduce Dr. Taghreed Alsaraj, the UK Saudi board member and chair. Dr. Taghreed is the CEO and the co-founder of Upskillable, columnist in Arabic News. She's a Saudi female best-selling author and international educational and entrepreneurship consultant, women leadership coach, and international public speaker, and a Saudi ambassador for Women's Entrepreneurship Day Organization, WEDO. She holds a PhD in Applied Linguistics and TESOL from UCL, University College London, and a Master of Science in Education from University of Miami. Dr. Taghreed, the stage is yours.
Hello, thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for the lovely introduction, Mahmoud. Just before we start, I want to talk about the KSA UK Alumni Board members. The 2019 to 2021 board was appointed by the British Council and the British Embassy back in July 2019 and would last for two years. The appointed board members will endeavor to act as ambassadors to provide leadership and contribute their expertise to shape the UK alumni network and promote relative themes. The board also acts to provide a strategic framework to support the engagement, sustainability, and relationships with alumni in Saudi Arabia and inspire the next generation leaders. I'm honored to introduce my fellow board members who will be with us as the panelists in this evening. First, we have Mr. Turki As-Sajjan, who is our board co-chair. Turkey is a savvy senior business development with over 17 years of well-rounded experience in enabling and scaling up growth across multiple sectors and industries, including wide exposure to government strategic initiatives. Turkey works as the Director of Planning and Business Development at the Vision Realization Office at the Ministry of Finance. He has earned his Executive MBA from Cass Business School. Our second board member is Dr. Khalid Al-Hathloul. He is our Communications and Sponsorship Lead. Dr. Khalid is currently working as the Executive Director for Corporate Services at Saudi Water Partnership Company and Professor of English at Imam Muhammad Ibn Saud University. Dr. Khalid is the former Change Manager, HR Advisor to the Minister of Environment, Water and Agriculture. Khalid also holds an MA of English Literature and a PhD of English Comparative Literature from Warwick University. And I was just told that he also, we have to say congratulations, he just received his MBA from Manchester University. There you go. The next is Dr. Mawia Khafaji. She is our Events and Activities Lead. Mawia is an Associate Professor in the School of Medicine, Department of Radiology, at King Abdulaziz University. She is a member of the Saudi FDA National Committee of Dose Reference Level, as well as a member of the Radiation Protection Committee at King Abdulaziz Hospital. She is the founder and head of the volunteering office of King Abdulaziz University. She got nominated by Sayyidati magazine as one of the top 100 most influential women in Saudi Arabia. She holds a Master of Science and a PhD in Medical Physics from Exeter University. And last but not least, oh no, sorry, not last, this is three. So our fourth would be Mr. Umar Al-Zaim. Mr. Umar Al-Zaim is our Events and Activities Lead. Umar is an Associate Director in the Investment Banking Advisor team at HSBC Saudi Arabia. He is also the co-founder and senior advisor at Alma Limited, a private family office responsible for global investment and asset management. He holds a business engineering, Bachelor in Engineering honors in Engineering and Business Management from King's College London, and is also a CFA chartered holder. We have the next one is Dr. Masni, sorry, Al-Said. سامحني دكتور. He is our communication lead, heading that. Dr. Mashni is the founder of the Sleep Lab in King Faisal Specialist Hospital and Research Center, as well as a board member of the Saudi Society for Respiratory Care with over 20 years of experience in the field of respiratory care and sleep. Mashni is a sleep medicine specialist as his current practice, and he is the head of respiratory care service. He participated as a guest speaker in over 30 conferences and activities, and hold a Master in Science in Behavioral Sleep Medicine from Glasgow University. And last but not least, Mr. Ahmed Al-Hidan. He is our sponsorship lead. Mr. Ahmed is passionate in communication and giving back to his society and opening up opportunities for youth to learn and gain knowledge in different fields. He is a supervisor in the Change Management Office at a general organization for technical and vocational training, and vocational and chemistry teacher for diploma and bachelor for students for over 16 years. He holds a Master in Science of Polymer and Surface Coating Science and Technology from Leeds, and is currently a PhD researcher in Glasgow. Those are our outstanding board members. If we go to, there you go, Mr. Ahmed just now came on. I want to kickstart this with our, we have two themes. The first theme is going to be adapting, is called remote working. So with that, I would like to invite the panelists, Dr. Khalid Al-Hathloul and Mr. Umar Al-Zaim and Dr. Mathni to come on to put their cameras on and unmute themselves. Yes, thank you. So I'm going to be asking questions to the panelists, and we'll get from their experience answers that hopefully will shed a lot of light for all of us. Start with Dr. Khalid. Dr. Khalid, from your background, mashallah, you have a very vast experience background. What do you think is required for remote working to succeed and work for us in terms of the technicalities, for example, the infrastructure, the policy and code of conduct, as well as challenges that you've seen and faced within this 8 weeks of lockdown that we've seen and remote working?
السلام عليكم جميعا، مساء الخير ورمضان مبارك جميعا، تقبل الله منا ومنكم صالح الأعمال. Yes, thank you, Dr. Taghreed, for this introduction. I think there's no doubt that the life after COVID-19 has given us a lot to think about, and about work and work life and work remotely. And I have seen this in person as the Executive Director for Shared Services. We're responsible for business continuity, so we had to face a lot of issues concerning how can we continue the business going on without any interruptions and make sure everyone is working in the best way they can. So I think there are a lot of issues to consider here. I will just talk about them briefly, and then I will contextualize the whole thing in our experience and what we have seen so far, and the challenges we have faced, and how if we have done meet them and try to go over them. So I think the first question we should ask ourselves is the basic decision of whether to go and work remotely or not. I think this is important, and it's linked to the type of business and industry you are in. So whether you can or you cannot. For example, in the retail business, it's going to be really tough to move into remotely work because you have a face-to-face meeting with the clients almost daily. So it's really hard to work from behind closed doors, for example. The other way is true about consulting businesses, for example, or businesses to businesses. Companies like ours, it's easy to shift to work remotely because all you need basically is a strong IT and technological infrastructure that will make you capable to make this shift and make sure that you meet the demands of the work. So in our case, we thought about the IT and technology infrastructure at the beginning, and I remember the meeting we had before going and deciding to go and work from home. I told we had the executive meeting with the CEO, and we were asked how ready we are. And I told everybody we are almost 90% ready to move tomorrow. And everyone was shocked. They didn't believe it because the system were not used properly, not utilized because people were going to the office, so they don't know what they have and they don't have, but we do as a function. So once we moved the first few days, everyone was shocked by the systems we have they didn't know about. So it's important to have the infrastructure ready for cases like this one. So also you need to have a support team that's ready to jump in and support everybody else. So people who understand the system and how they work, and they can support the people and the employees in the company. This will make everybody shift quickly to the new environment. Another essential aspect for us was to ensure that the line of communication between managers and employees is clear and consistent. At the beginning, we only thought about technology and how can we make people meet together as teams to discuss work. How can we make sure that our systems support us? For example, the correspondence system, the archiving system, the ERP systems, they are all cloud in our case, and they were supporting us perfectly. But what we were shocked about when we start using the systems is actually the policies behind these systems. So people didn't know much about what they expect and what is expected from them. So we had a lot of arguments between employee and manager, a lot of tension rising up. Nobody knows what's expected from them in terms of deadlines, in terms of when they should be available online, when they're not. So people were complaining of being overloaded. Even though at the beginning everybody felt that this is freedom, flexibility, you can work anywhere, anytime, but actually what it turns out to be is a lot of work. Everyone was connected almost 24 hours. And the problem is we didn't have a policy around this. Managers were communicating with employees almost all day long, and employees were complaining, we need to have time for ourselves. So we had these issues, and we needed to find solutions around them. So the first thing we did, which is probably not usual, we told everybody not to use WhatsApp as a means of communication. WhatsApp is easy, instant messages. You can reach everyone at any time, anywhere. But this actually does not consider the privacy and the time of the employees themselves. So, and the other point which we found WhatsApp is not helping us a lot with is the fact that to have multiple channels of communication actually gets you lost in the middle. For example, when you start a subject or an issue you want to solve in the business, and you start it through an email, but then a day later or 10 minutes later, you move to the WhatsApp as a channel. So you have half of the case in here and half of the case there. So you lose a lot of things in between. So once you get to a decision, you don't know what's happening, where we are, what decision we have made. So we completely abandoned WhatsApp. We made the email, and we have the correspondence system within the company to be the official means for communication. And this has helped a lot, helped us a lot.
So I can understand from your point of view is for the code of conduct is, yes, not use all technology that is available, focus on one which is very formal, and you can time it so people don't have to answer emails at midnight or a request. So they
we developed a lot of policies around connectivity, working hours. We had official working hours. So you are available within these times. You can be available after these hours, but you don't expect replies as soon as if you were within the normal hours. So we had to tell the managers to understand this aspect, and employees as well. We had policies around being connected to work, because we found some cases where people are not really connected. They took it as a holiday in a sense. So we had to make sure they are actually connected, and we recorded the time. So the systems help us to record the time of being available online. So once you're not online or active for 1 hour, the system will go off, and then you're not working really. So it's a little bit of a pressure on employees, but it helped us a lot to maintain the business and to get the objectives of the business. One important thing as well we did is not only revising the policies and the framework on communication channels and how we work, but also around being realistic with our plans. Now we are sure that working remotely is slow. It's much slower than when you are in the office. Because in the office, you have the body language supporting you, you have the teams around you, you can go and talk to somebody and explain things to them, and they will do it. They will understand it much better. But if you are communicating online, there's a big chance people will not understand what you're about. And they will understand it differently. Sometimes they go and do the job after 3 days or 4 days, and they come back to the results. This is not what we agreed on. This is completely different. So we agreed that to make sure that everybody is aligned and to reduce the level of communication as much as possible and make it more direct, and write very, very clear emails as well. So what is the emails we write? What is the issue? What is expected from you? What's the next step? So you have to write these things in order for the others to understand you. Yeah, and things are turning up as we go. I'm just mentioning the most important thing we have seen so far, but I think there are a lot of things going on as well.
Okay, very interesting points that you brought up, and I think we can wrap up and when we talk about bringing that back up again in our next session, pick that up. I want to move on. I'm aware of the time, but I want to talk to Mr. Umar. Mr. Umar, I have a question for you. From your experience in the management, investment, and banking sector, can you shed some light for our junior alumni or anyone that is moved jobs recently within this unprecedented time with the current lockdown and the working conditions that's happening? What are some of the tips that you can share to keep this communication open with the team?
Yeah, so I think to start that off, I think it's important to know when quarantine started, we all, moved to working remotely quite quickly because we had to, and we left behind some of the things that we took for granted, such as, shadowing the seniors in the office, sitting in on meetings, being part of internal brainstorming, client interactions, and I personally noticed that, as a result of this kind of disengagement of, that personal touch, there's been some breakdowns in communication and some building frustrations within my team. And to solve this, I had to have a discussion with a lot of the team members, and I also had to review what I was doing myself in terms of working habits. So, some of the observations we noted, for example, more junior colleagues were less and less involved in client interactions or even internal discussions that had, a lot of brainstorming going on. And, decisions were being handed down or being made clear to people, on junior levels without really involving them in the discussions or the thinking behind them. And another thing that we also noticed is that, feedback, and I think Dr. Khalid alluded to this, was becoming the feedback over the phone or over email was much less efficient and was becoming more brief because, people would have had more chance to talk physically to people, give them more background, give them more feedback. But as this moved to phone or email, people are getting a bit busier, and it kind of reduced, limiting the ability to extract more and more feedback from that. So essentially, what was happening is, different team members were working in different silos, which was harming the development of the juniors overall because, this didn't allow them to be part of a lot of the discussions, and also took more time to finalize some of the deliverables. So what did we try to do to address some of these gaps in communication, as you've suggested, Dr. Taghreed? And luckily some of that came because I had been working remotely immediately before the corona, as part of, so we were working on the Aramco IPO, and we were on the road quite a lot. So we had to be really plugged into all our systems, and we had the system that was working, and we tried to implement it to the wider team. So for example, we set up weekly or even daily calls internally on projects or tasks to make sure that everyone is on the same page. We're sharing all the updates as they happen, so everyone is on the same page, everyone is in the loop. And then we followed up with, either on email or secure chat groups. I won't call it WhatsApp for Dr. Khalid, but secure chat groups to make sure that everyone is involved and everyone is aware of what's happening. Another thing that we've done as well is we've tried to shift a lot of the bilateral client communication into conference calls. So once COVID started, we noticed that a lot of clients started calling us, picking up the phone, calling us, calling the most senior person, having a discussion with them, and then that started to cascade down to the team. So we started to be a bit more structured about that, to ask them to have conference calls to bring in all the team so that they can hear it firsthand. And this is something that I suggest, that you do discuss with your seniors and try to push to have that forum. So even if you're not participating in the discussion, but at least you can hear it firsthand, make sure no messages are lost that way. The last thing also that we did is we made sure to take the time as the senior members of the team to redline all of the documents that we're sharing back, to provide detailed comments to team members who are sharing through email some of these. And this doesn't replace the physical interaction that we used to have, but at least it kind of gives them an idea of the thinking behind the changes. And what I strongly suggest as well is if you're in that position and you're working with someone more senior than you, is to always try and hold master of that document and make the changes yourself, and kind of force the discussion and the instructions to come to you, and that way that will actually help you develop more. And sometimes, you know, I know that seniors may not have the time to come back to you and keep giving you the comments. So what we've done is we've found that the share screen functionality on Zoom worked quite well. And this is, you know, to put the screen up and then to talk through the changes and walk through them one by one, make sure everyone's on the same page, and then you'd have a chance to ask the questions. Now, so another point I want to touch on quickly is communication, and not just the way that we work and the working habits, but also communication, because sometimes the way you say things is just as important as the content and getting it across. So, you know, an example from my perspective of some suboptimal communication is, you know, I had a team member who in the initial phases would pick up the phone to me maybe 4 or 5 or 6 times a day every time he had the question. You know, even if it was a 30-second conversation, it was a bit frustrating and it seemed a bit unorganized. So, you know, we sat down and we structured this communication a bit more, and we talked about a few things, which is, first of all, you know, on your level, there are probably a lot of people who are going through the same thing that you are. So we encouraged a lot of the team members to be even more connected to people within the same level or within the same kind of tier, to make sure, you know, if they've gone through the same task, the same question, the same problem, they can help them. The second, we've assigned mentors to you know, new joiners or a bit more junior people or a bit fresh people in the organization, and this mentor would serve as a first stop to guiding them towards what resources are available, who to speak to, what to say, and also ensure that their feedback gets feeded up to the seniors. And this makes it a bit more structured, because that person becomes dedicated and can you know, act as a filter before things, you know, a lot of messages go all over the place to different people. And the one more thing that we did as well is we asked a lot of people to be more structured when they pick up the phone and call people, whether it's a client, whether it's internally, you know, the CEO, the MD, the director. So, you know, you go through the day, you have a lot of tasks, you know, even more than ever probably now, things coming your way from all types of sides, from all types of parties, you know, so write down all of the topics that you want to discuss with one person, you know, build it up over a day or two, and then have that one conversation at once with that person. And, you know, even dropping them ahead of time, notes saying that I want to talk to you about 1, 2, 3. And it's always useful to come to them with a solution rather than, you know, catch them cold on the call saying, you know, I have this, what shall I do? But rather think about it and say, you know, I've thought about this or this. This will also force you to develop yourself, and will also force, you know, your seniors to actually take the time to engage and discuss with you, because you know, you've shown them that you've had more meaningful thought and discussion behind this. Now, the seniors also, we've asked senior members also to be more elaborate in their communication, giving clearer instructions over the phone, and trying to and from your perspective as well, I suggest that if someone more senior than you spoke and you're finding that there is still a communication breakdown, to follow up all phone conversations with an email, reiterating the instructions on a high level, just to make sure that you're all on the same page. And I think just 2 last practical points I want to say: invest in some headphones and buy headphones. It will allow you to have your hands free, so you can write notes, research something during a call or anything else. And also take notes of everything that you hear on calls, take notes of everything, a call with anyone. And if there's something that is not clear to you, take the time after the call to kind of research that and look into it.
Thank you, Omar. You're wonderful with these tips. Along with Dr. Khalid's tips, together they're making a lot of sense, and we know now that structure is basically have clear guidelines and structure. We bring it, everything will be clear for the employees to follow. Now I want to a little bit shift into something that is also very interesting with Dr. Mashni. And I want to tell you something share something with you guys, is that I had a conversation yesterday with a friend of mine. She was telling me that she went to a pharmacy to get some over-the-counter remedies or tea to help her sleep. She's not getting enough sleep. And so when she went to the pharmacy, she was telling the pharmacist, what do you have? The pharmacist said to her, look behind me in the cabinets are empty. He said to her, those are the medications prescription medicine, non-prescription, over-the-counter, they're gone for sleeping or antidepressants. So we got to get to the bottom of this, and we have an expert here with us, Dr. Mashni. Please shed some light. We need to know the sleep disturbance with what's happening in this pandemic and lockdown. What are the challenges associated with it? And especially if you can give us some solutions or tips to overcome this. People need it.
For sure. First, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yes, you are right about the story for your friend about the pharmaceutical or the out-of-counter medication. If we actually link it to the corona pandemic, we can see that there is really a change in our lifestyle because there is a lot of sleep disturbances going there. And if I just want to say something about sleep disturbance or sleep medicines, it's a new field of medicines that actually concentrate on what's happening during sleep. So they found that there is more than 84 disorders happening during sleep. When the person is awake, or he will be recovered totally from those disorders. So, but it affects their daily times. There is a lot of comorbidities for lacking of sleep, like heart or cardiac comorbidities. We have like diabetes, hypertension, and also affecting the psychological side in the individual in his daily time. So it's increasing anxiety, insomnia, sadness, depression. Especially now when we are in the pandemic and people, they are working remotely from home. Actually, they are lack of going outside, they are lack of doing exercise, and also they are not aware about the circadian rhythm, which is it's organized by our body. We have like 24 hours daily circadian rhythms. It has its time for sleep and wake, and also other things that the body needs. Why we are sleeping? Because we need to repair our, to restore our activity, to fight the diseases, to increase our immunities, and a lot of things. And when we are saying immunity, people will be affected when they have a lack of sleep because the immunity will be low, and that they will be prone to have more infections and more diseases because of that. So this is why they have to promote, or they have to achieve good immunities in that one. Also, the big link, as you mentioned, is the psychiatric or psychological effect. There is a lot of research done in the net actually about what is the most word of search in the search engine. They found that insomnia and dreams, nightmare, it's now in these days is really very frequent, and people, they are complaining of it. So this is why they need a lot of attention, and they need to be more seen by consultant to consult somebody to organize his sleep. Just I want to tell you that there is two types of sleep. We have long sleep and short sleep. Short sleep less than 6 hours, long sleep more than 9 hours. If you have long sleep, still you have a problem, and short sleep also you have a problem. So you have to manage between that. In these days with the remote control, and we are in Ramadan, actually we will our style will be different. We are waking at night and sleeping during the daytimes. And night it's actually used to be for sleeping because the body will be slow on activities. The sleeping hormone will be secreted. The growth hormone for kids will be there also in the beginning of the night. So all of that will affect our sleep. In Ramadan, it's proving, or infrequent fasting, that there is a lack of or short of sleep, which we call it sleep deprivation, and that will lead to what you mentioned in the beginning about people, they are seeking for medications to sleep, or medication to relieve their stress and their actually panic or their insomnia. So if you want me to jump to the solution, I will tell you that yes.
Everybody's
okay.
looking for the solution.
Okay, so the one there is a lot of technique for solutions. You know, we call it as a sleep hygiene. You have to have a good sleep hygiene, and like I will tell you something. From exercising is actually beneficial for your for any psychological thing. You need to exercise. You need to have a good diet, and also you need to sleep well. So how to sleep well? You have to stop from taking coffee or any caffeinated drink. Should disturb your sleep. You have to expose during the daytime to the sun, you know, because exposing to the sun actually will delay the sleep and to the night. In the night, when it's dark, the eye retina will react with the light, and if there is no light, the sleeping hormone or melatonin will be secreted from our body, so we will go to sleep. If you have the light and you have your mobile and you have any type of blue light or that will delay your sleep during the night. Yes, we were talking here about the new technology, and as Dr. Khalid and Umar pointed, Mr. Umar pointed to that we should not abuse actually using the technology. We have to have a structured guideline for that one. But using those technology or time that will delay. Actually, you need, and it's proving that you will have less sleep. So you need to sleep at night and get enough at the daytimes, and all of that, inshallah, will help. There is another things also we can say that like we are doing it like cognitive behavior or to change the concept or it will be done. There is a written, technique, and there is a lot of things we can use it and adapt it to enhance our sleep. Then, when we enhance our sleep, that means we will have a good immunity and we can fight disease. So, also for work, if you want to be productive in your work and effectively, good sleep will increase your productivity in work and on life. Okay, and increase the cognitions, and also lack of it will be the opposite, that you will be cognition will be low and productivity will be low, anger or stress it will be there. So I think it's my advice to all of us actually, and including me, just to have a well-established plan schedules for sleeping daily. And I think it's proving that it will improve, and also it's linked also to the to improve also the personality of the person. So I think this is what I have.
Okay.
Inshallah, that I give you.
So much. Your topic is so very very interesting. We would need to even for another session we would need to talk about the sleep. But for now we are out of time for the session one for theme one. But I thank you all for shedding the slides and the tips that you provided. I think we want to go to the theme 2, and I would like to invite, so if you can all mute and turn off your mics, and I invite my my panelists in theme 2, which is Mr. Turki and Dr. Mawiya and Mr. Ahmed as well. Mr. Ahmed? Yes, you're mute, Mr. Ahmed Al-Hidan, you're mute. So if you unmute yourself and turn on your cam. Yes, thank you so much. Okay. So theme 2, thank you for coming on and sharing your experience with us. Theme 2 is going to be talking about adapting lifestyle changes, the new norm that we call. My first question and just a bit of a comment is that I saw on the news that Twitter, and this is this question is targeted towards Mr. Turki to shed some light on that. Twitter has just announced that employees are permitted to work from home indefinitely, even after the pandemic. As long as their work is not affected. So they don't have to go to the office, they can work from home. So I'm guessing we're going to see more of these companies pop up. If this is that we can do it now in this lockdown time, that we don't need to go later on into the office. So, and I think a lot of companies will adapt this strategy. So like it or not, it looks like this is going to be the new norm. We might not need to go to physically to the office to do any work. We can do everything from home. But having said that, we always hear about balancing life and work relation. But in the time of remote working and working from home, can you please shed some of the experience on tips on how to balance this so-called life-work relationship and adapting it into become an actual lifestyle that we can further on continue with this maybe new strategy that's coming out?
Thank you, Dr. Taghreed. It's quite an interesting topic, to be honest. And from my own perspective, at least I can talk on my behalf, which is it's easier said than done. Looking back at my own experience back in the past 2 months, really, I know that personally this is can be a good solution, but it comes with a price. And that price can come on the issues of focus and effectiveness. And when I was like a couple of days ago, I was reminiscing back, like on the days which were 3 months back, when things were normal and we were working in office, and did a bit of comparison between the current situation and the past situation. Where things were, we used to go to the office where there's a controlled environment. You always put your to-do list, you follow up with your teams, and you have like probably an executive assistant that would help you do stuff. Meetings are scheduled, and you have quite a total control on your time throughout the 8 working hours that you do every day. But at home, it's quite a different ballgame, to be honest, and it can easily lead to burnout. The issue is that you're bringing work to home, which is a totally different environment, and many of you would agree with me that trying to lock yourself in a room or in a dedicated space for 8 hours while maintaining focus and effectiveness is quite a challenge. It can be easy for those who are single, basically, or they live with their parents where there's not really so much of chores, home chores to do, or responsibilities, or things, or kids running around playing with loud noises. But it can be quite a difficult challenge for working parents and married people with children. And the 2 things that would make it really quite a challenge is to maintain focus and effectiveness. When the curfew started and we shifted work back at home, to me, my experience was more of a trial and error. So every day I was trying to look for a hack that would enable me to manage time better, and let's say to control my time better, where I can produce better results at home and maintain focus. One of the things that I've observed is, and this is something that Khalid and Umar tapped into, which is work turned out to be like shifted into 24 hours working style. And many of us can find it really challenging to work on tasks that would require focus and concentration without being interrupted, whether interrupted by a phone call or another meeting, team meeting, or maybe by your children, or the delivery guy who's basically coming to deliver to you some stuff that you bought from the internet 1 month back. It can be a quite challenge to try to lock yourself down when you work with a family that sometimes needs you urgently during the day. So my hack was really to surrender. But how did I do that? Instead of trying to force home to adapt to my working style, I did adapt to the timings and to the different breakout periods or the calm periods that I call during home. And one of those hacks that I've tried and it worked well for me is trying to leverage on screen time for kids, for example, where they get frozen, and I did dedicate a screen time for 1 hour maybe daily or 2 hours, separate hours where they're allowed to watch TV or maybe play video games. And during those screen time hours, I would shift my most important tasks that I would need to focus on and put them and do them in parallel at the same time. The thing also is that you cannot maintain a continuous 8-hour working style. So we need to distribute those hours during the day. And of course, there are major hours that you would need to dedicate for meetings and teams and schedule activities and milestones during work, where you collaborate with teams. And there are, I would call them offline working hours that you can use to reply to emails, make a report, run an analysis that would need focus, and you can do that during different times based on the activities that you're trying to manage at home. So plan your time accordingly, and I would say define your break hours, where you can use those hours either to spend some quality time with your family, with your kids, do something at home that is necessary, would require your involvement, and make note of the activities or the things that you would need to come back later, and you need to define the time that you would need to come back to it, where you can accomplish this. So after working hours, say if it's 5 p.m., we virtually stop working, I would usually put a list of the emails that I would need to reply to and of the things that I would need to come back to at 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. where my kids sleep. This would relieve me really from the burden of continuously keep thinking of those tasks, even after working hours, during iftar and after iftar, and it's like a burden. 9 p.m. is approaching. What am I going to do? Should I procrastinate further, or should I maybe do them later? Or since you're planning your activities during the night and day, it would be easy for you to manage the other time that you would need to dedicate and be present at home and finish stuff with your family and spend some time with them.
Keeping a schedule and sticking to it. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Turki. I want to move on to Dr. Mawiya. Dr. Mawiya is in the health sector, and she's a health worker. So we really need some tips here. Please share with us, how did this COVID-19 affected your lifestyle and personally, as well as the family, since you're in the health sector? You're on mute.
Yeah, so basically everyone is talking about working from home. We still go to work, but then we do it in a different way. So we alternate.
Appreciate every second of it. Thank you so much.
Team A and Team B. So Team A will start week 1, and then Team B would do Team 2, and then we go back. So with this, you'd think that we have a slow week on the week that we don't go to work, but then because they're patients and they're junior doctors and all these things, and they haven't seen what happened in the week before. So you've got to be 8 hours a day or maybe more with them on Zoom calls or phones or WhatsApp to just, you know, do the conduction between you and the team on every little small detail with patients, with medication, with radiation. So it takes so much energy to be fully functioning 24 hours and all alerted with being there and having, you know, taking care of yourself and making sure that no one gets infected because it's all around. So you've got to be very careful. So the sense of alert goes down in the week that you're not there, but then you've got to be very alerted to all the small details because you're going to use it the week after.
Oh.
And you've got to make sure that you conveyed the message to the team who's there of all the details that you've seen the week before. So taking notes, even small ones, makes a difference. We get sometimes to record the Zoom calls between us so everyone can go back to it and check what happens. With my family, it's a bit difficult when you're in the healthcare because you've got to keep yourself a little bit isolated. You can't really mingle with people, and especially because we cannot disappear for 2 weeks, which is the time for the incubation period for the virus to show symptoms if you're symptomatic. So the kids do not understand, the family does not understand that, okay, you're home, so you're okay. And it's like, no, I'm home, but I'm not sure I'm okay. I might be asymptomatic. I might be in incubation period. So you've got to be careful. So most of the time, all in my office or in my room, all alone. So it did really affect me. So even the kids will play outside. So I don't even have the luxury like Turkey to spend some time with the kids because I know it might not be the safest thing for them. So yes, it has changed a lot my perspective of how I want to enjoy the kids when things are better, and how I want to enjoy my family and the rest of the, you know, my sisters and all these things when things are getting better. So yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, thank you so much for everything you do. We appreciate it. We couldn't be where we are now without you guys helping and doing that. And you're in the front line. I want to go to Mr. Ahmed. I want to talk to you and I want to ask you, from your perspective is totally different, is not totally, but somewhat different because you're from the experience in the change management as well as being a PhD student. So how did this change, these changes affected within this pandemic time, affect your work, your studies, and your lifestyle and your family?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Taghreed, and assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone. Honestly, I think negatively affected my work and my studies as well. On the other hand, I am able to overcome this during hello.
Yes, hello? Yes, we can.
Yeah. I am able to overcome this during 4 points. First of all, I try to organize my time with all my work and with my colleagues in the school. So secondly, and I use the technology for these techniques, like this technology for meeting with friends, with my boss and the work, and we need to deal with them or to discuss anything. Sometimes you need to write down or send it, or we discuss later on. Thirdly, ensure we need during this time we need to have some fun with family, like movies or games, as a friend says. Honestly, we need to have some fun or some rest, as well as the final thing we need to repeat, and we need to reorder what is important, what we can call it the opportunities, and we can call it order it. What's the important thing we have to do it now, tomorrow, after tomorrow. The last thing is focus on what you are doing, and you would need to write down and take by time. Some people this time knows you are student and your school, they know you are a student, but in the work they don't either about it. They need it as it is. There is a limitation for your work. So if you need to do presentation or a submit of work, some work, you need it. So the time need be focused on as a time. Usually that's the 4 points, and I'd like to discuss more on, but I think this is important thing. Focus on what you're doing, so have some fun and some rest, and there is separation between work and the studies, and the people who are behind you, or friends or colleagues or relatives, they know you are a student, and your supervisor is more like my supervisor. He knows I am working, I'm studying. That we need to do it time by time, then you will get it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the panelists. I think I want to just recap everything. I think we all touched on using technology, but using it wisely. That's one. And focusing our tasks to get it done, get disciplined, have discipline, and schedule it and keep that schedule. And that's like the only way to focus you on what you're doing, because we can all easily, you know, run into 12 hours a day of work, not only 8 hours at all. I think that's the major takeaway from all of these talks. Thank you all for shedding your views on light on this. And I'd like to, we're coming into the end of this webinar. I would like to wrap up this panel discussion and saying a thank you to the British Ambassador Neil Crompton for the video he made especially for this webinar. I would like to thank the British Council and all its members, led by Ailey, for putting this event together, which I'm sure will be followed by many more, inshallah. I'd also like to thank the panelists who are my fellow members of the UK Alumni Board in Saudi for their time and for their ongoing help to plan new events like the UK Alumni Awards, which was delayed this year because of the COVID-19, but none the case, we will have it inshallah at some time. I would like to briefly mention that the UK Alumni Award pays a tribute to the impact that alumni of UK higher education institutions have had in their chosen field, and how this was sparked by their studies in the UK. I'm proud to say that I was the winner of the 2019 Alumni Award for the social impact category last year. If you are interested into hearing more about this, can you please do visit the British Council Saudi website and apply to be part of the following for the next year and the following years. Finally, I'd like to say when individuals receive world-class education in the UK, that effect can last a lifetime. And in the end, I would like to give a quote that I've actually written in the Arab News article. And I say, and I just leave you with that, in times of crisis, we need to restructure not only our work, but our lives, behaviors, habits, and priorities to keep up with the inevitable changes surrounding us. I thank you and see you soon in another webinar. Bye.